And welcome everybody to the Daily Space Weather. Here at the Smash News Network, least busted name in news, it's only the most detailed imagery of the sun and the most comprehensive space weather you'll find anywhere on the internet, anywhere in the world. Looking close up at the closest star, thanks for stargazing with us here. I'm your host, Dan, aka Smash-O-Mash. So we may have a new active region rising here in the southeast. More excitingly, we've got a very complex sunspot up here in the northeast. That'll be the most interesting portion of the closest star at the moment. And here's some composite imagery that is yesterday plus today so far. Today being Thursday, September 8th, 2022. Here's your SDO intensity gram. And again, the most exciting sunspot is that one up in the northeast. It's grown rather rapidly here. It's quite magnetically complex, as you can see here on the colorized magnetogram imagery. So quite a few sunspot groups here. And we'll also be talking about the Russell-McLaren effect. Don't worry. Be happy. We've got plenty of coverage for you today. So let's do a quick rundown here of what volcanoes are erupting. Subanosejima exploded. 7,000 foot ash plume from Subanosejima. Mount Ibu exploding. 7,000 foot ash plume from Mount Ibu on the Isle of Halmahera, Indonesia. Semeru on East Java exploding. Discrete eruptions don't seem that discrete to me, as they've produced a 14,000 foot plume of volcanic ash. Flight level 140, don't pole vault the caldera. Dacono exploding. Flight level 080, 8,000 foot ash plume from Dacono. Headed down to central Mexico, Popocatépetl exploding. 20,000 foot ash plume from Popocatépetl. Headed farther south to Fuego in Guatemala exploding. Flight level 150 from Fuego. Nevado de Ruiz exploding in Colombia. Flight level 230, 23,000 foot ash plume over Nevado de Ruiz in Colombia. Ecuador featuring the two usual suspects, Sangay and Revenador, both exploding. 20,000 foot ash plume over Sangay, 14,000 foot ash plume over Revenador. And Sabancaya exploding in Peru. Flight level 260 over the South American nation of Peru from Sabancaya. It's a 26,000 foot volcanic ash column. Looking at seismicity here, it's just moderate seismic activity. Largest quake of the past 24 was a 5.6. I'm just going to scroll up the list here, citing the largest quakes. It's been mostly calm here, not that many quakes. I believe this is the largest here, this 5.6 near Sumatra, Indonesia. Also a 5.1 east of there. Those both coming in only 2 minutes apart there. The 5.6 at 1809 Universal Time, the 5.1 at 1811 Universal Time. Some quakes in the Aleutians and also in northeastern Alaska. South Sandwich Island saw a 5.0. Not a lot of people there to experience that. And oh, check it out. We've got a 5.1 there at Iceland. That's a pretty significant quake for Iceland. And it's actually located in the northern part of the island here. Most of that volcanic activity happening at the southern part. That's actually north of the island nation of Iceland there. In the Greenland Sea. That one came in at 4:01 Universal Time earlier this morning. We also saw a succession here of quakes here, a 5.3 in Tonga at 7:15. A 5.5 at Greece at 7:36. And a 5.1 at Cinnabung at 7:58. And let's continue on, as it's time to go back to space. This is the last 24 hours, by the way, in 171 angstroms, the house favorite wavelength. And I want you to keep an eye on this area right up here throughout the day today. It's the most likely place to produce large flares, in my opinion. Remember, folks, we are in the most geomagnetically active month of the year. The 10.7 centimeter radio flux, a measurement of the radio flux density output of the upper chromosphere and lower corona, this area right down here, it's proportional to sunspot number. The radio flux now at 126 solar flux units. One solar flux unit is equivalent to 10,000 joules of radio flux density. And thanks for leaving comments, Mama D1K. Good morning to you as well. There's the 1 year chart of the radio flux, as we're seeing some higher lows and lower highs. And the Space Weather Enthusiast dashboard not forecasting any geomagnetic storm or geomagnetic unrest, although we are in a state of geomagnetic unrest. That's NOAA's forecast from the Space Weather Enthusiast dashboard. So why more auroras around the equinoxes? It's because of the Russell-McFerrin effect. I think it has to do with the perpendicularity of the magnetic fields with respect to the incoming solar wind, but in any case, the mechanistic cause is from relativistic electrons being accelerated in the outer Van Allen belts. So this acceleration of electrons in the outer Van Allen belts tends to cause more induced currents on the Earth. And there you can see the most geomagnetically active months are indeed March and September. If you want to read more about the Russell-McFerrin effect, there's an article here on earthsky.org. That article entitled Aurora Season, Why More Auroras at the Equinoxes. And you can also find articles about this, such as Role of the McFerrin Effect on the Acceleration of Relativistic Particles. It has to do with the interaction of Earth's magnetic field with respect to the incoming solar wind. Remember, folks, plasma aligns to the magnetic field lines. Now let's continue on to take a look at the magnetic moment from space here for the past 4 hours. We've got a high-pressure environment continuing here as we have a high-speed coronal hole wind stream continuing for, with respect to my predictions here, an unexpectedly long period of time. But that's the last 4 hours there. Earth's magnetic moment from space modeled in magnetohydrodynamic pressure, nanopascals. Here's Earth's magnetic moment from the ground. Again, we are in a state of geomagnetic unrest at the moment. Maybe some great auroral imagery being videoed and photographed right now. Actually, it looks like things have calmed down here in the past about 2 hours, as the coronal hole high-speed stream continues. So there's the KP index. Periods of geomagnetic unrest have continued for the past 3 days. The KP index is a measurement of global geomagnetism. So here's the real-time solar wind data, and it's looking like some possible errors here. This long yellow bar there, that's an error suspect. The reported data is 510 kilometers per second for the solar wind velocity. Solar wind density, about 9 protons per cubic centimeter, and you see this strong negative BZ. That's the vertical component of the magnetic field. Right there, that top pane, the red line, and that is one of the things that also causes additional induced currents on the planet. And let's continue on. Some magnetic data here. Here's the GOES magnetometer. Some pretty significant fluctuations happening there. And by the way, if you're a new viewer, these M's, those stand for midnight local time. That's midnight local time for the GOES 16. That's noon local time for the GOES 16. And the GOES 16 and GOES 17 are geosynchronous near equatorial orbiting satellites. They're at over 10,000 miles of altitude. Next, looking at the heliospheric current sheet. We are expecting a South Pole current sheet to be here by tomorrow's video. South Pole current sheet shown here in red, as the Earth is about to exit the North Pole current sheet. Let's take a look at the line of sight field plot, as we do show daily on the channel, as we're showing the intricacies of the advancement of solar cycle 25. So here you can see the line of sight field plot showing the sun's B field in blue, the solar magnetogram, as well as the solar polar fields there. North Pole in green, South Pole in red. Next we'll move to coronal holes. And keep an eye on this North Pole coronal hole, because this is going to start to exit the North Pole region as solar cycle 25 progresses. It's still a little bit fixated toward the North Heliographic region, and the South Polar migration is ahead of the North Polar migration at the moment. We've got a long way to go through solar cycle 25, and you can expect to see a lot more activity. Now, as we forecasted yesterday, you can see these coronal holes of South Pole orientation in the north. They're getting a little bit more well-defined. And this Gong 2 data will really help to predict that if you want to. That's part of the National Sunspot Observatory, by the way. That's the last 24 hours in 211 angstroms. Next, we'll move to sunspots. We've got some exciting ones, especially 3096. So flare probability here, I'd say it's rising. 3096 has gained a bit of complexity here over the past 24, and let's take some imagery. First, the SDO magnetogram. What's that? Too far away? How about a zoom in? And next, the continuum imagery. So we've got multiple beta gamma class sunspot groups. This one down here is beta gamma class. This is beta gamma class. This is beta gamma class, and so is this. So those are all more likely than this alpha class sunspot to produce large flares. So at least 4 significantly magnetically complex groups there. This area down here trying to decide whether or not to be a sunspot. And again, 3096 is the most interesting sunspot group. I think this is going to be named a separate group. That'll be 3097. It looks like it is also beta gamma class. It does have a trailing umbra there. We'll take a look at that in high res toward the end of the video. X-ray flux here underperforming. So expect to see this increasing here in the coming days. No relativistic particles there showing up in the ghost proton flux. And we like to use 131 and 94 angstroms to view solar flares. Past 24, pretty uneventful when it comes to that. And it looks like this is going to be another sunspot down here that looks active enough that it is likely to have umbrae. What do you think? Let us know in the comments. Next, we've brought up a star chart from in-the-sky.org. As we like to know what's going on above our heads, we've got Jupiter and Mars up there. I looked out the front door. It's a clear sky over Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, and a great view of Mars from our front doorstep. We like to face our star chart to the south. That's the direction of the ecliptic for those of you in the northern hemisphere. The ecliptic being the line the sun takes across the sky, shown here in yellow. The blue line is the galactic plane. And here's your solar system forecast. Keep in mind this imagery is not to scale. Let's advance this 1 week. Here's where things will be in a week. Venus lonely on the opposite side of the solar system. All the other 8 planets on our side of the solar system. And let's take a look at some coronagraphs here. Stereo A, unfortunately, showing a bunch of old data. Here's the coronagraph imagery from yesterday. And things fairly calm as far as coronal mass ejections going. Here's today's imagery so far. That's 15 more frames. So no views from Stereo A today, but we do have some 24-hour imagery. What the heck? Here's 24 hours of 304 angstroms from SDO and the Soho-Lascaux C2 and C3. So some mild CMEs happening there. And it looks like a major one may be actually fixing to happen down here in the southwestern limb. You can see some huge amount of plasma suspended out there by the sun's magnetic fields, defying gravity. Looks like that is about to eject. That is way more plasma than can be suspended for an extended period of time. Some of that plasma will be headed out into the greater solar system soon. If I had to forecast its direction, which I don't, I would say it'll probably miss Earth to the southwest, but you never know. As sometimes we even see Earth-directed CMEs coming from portions of the sun not visible from planet Earth. So here are some filaments. Looking at the El Teide, Spain ground-based solar observatory, looking at hydrogen alpha imagery, and huge number of filaments, especially in the southern hemisphere, but also some in the northeast. So those significantly raise the probability of coronal mass ejections. Something to keep an eye on. Speaking of ions, here's 304 angstroms from the GOES 16 SUVI. Those are helium ions. Helium nuclei with no electrons at very high temperatures. So yeah, it certainly looks like we're going to see a CME in the southwestern limb, somewhere from down here. As there's a huge amount of plasma suspended out there in the solar corona. Here's a higher res series of images from SDO for the past 24 hours. And it's time to get into bonus features. We've got some major charging hazards here. You may see some anomalous data from satellites. Satellites can even take some damage and be forced to adjust their orbits. There's satellite drag going on right now. And we'll tell you why. But first, let's pause for station identification. Welcome to the Smash News Network. Least busted name in news. So again, major charging hazards here happening at the moment. We've got internal charging around most of the planet at red levels there, so that's less than good. And some surface charging hazards here around the Caribbean, northern South America, Mexico, moving into the Central Pacific Ocean. So major charging hazards here. The internal charging portion is caused by high energy electrons getting inside of the circuitry of satellites. Surface charging caused by low energy electrons building up on the surface of satellites. And yeah, we may see, again, some significant communications breakdowns. If you see funky imagery going on your satellite data, like if you're looking at weather satellites, for example, you may see some huge errors there happening. That's the cause. It's an electron storm. So here is the GOES electron flux over the past 3 days. That is the electron flux measured at the F layer of the ionosphere from the geosynchronous orbits of the GOES satellites. So those satellites are at about 10,000 miles of altitude. They're measuring that at 300 kilometers of altitude using radiography. And NOAA forecasting even, well, similarly high levels here. So there's the forecast for the relativistic electron flux from NOAA as the electron storm continues. And there is the 1-year chart. We're approaching the highest levels we've seen all year, which was just about a week ago here, right there. And next we'll look at the vibrational frequency of the F ionosphere layer. So here's the F ionosphere layer in megahertz. We do have some significant swings happening here in the ionosphere, as well as both high and low frequency anomalies, I believe. We'll let that play through, then we'll show the anomalygram. So here's the anomalygram. This is anomaly in megahertz from a 30-day median. Some wild swings happening here around northern South America. So this area right here, north of the South Atlantic anomaly, we're seeing some big swings there from high to low frequency anomaly in the most geomagnetically active month of the year. Let's let that play through one more time. Some big swings happening there in the Eastern Pacific. There's the latest image, 10:15 Universal Time. And the total electron content is going to show you the free electrons in between the lower portion of the outer Van Allen belt all the way down to your GPS handset. They are fairly orderly here. We're not seeing free electrons too out of place at the moment. They're generally oriented around the equator at noontime. It's the coupled thermosphere, ionosphere, plasmasphere electrodynamics. And your GPS satellite is at about 12,500 miles of altitude when it has to communicate through a lot of free electrons. Your handset experiences signal refraction. In other words, your GPS might think you're thousands of miles away from where you're actually located. So here's the latest in high res from the SDO. And do we have a new sunspot down here? Well, we don't see any umbre yet. So here's the most exciting sunspot, 3096. And that new region to its southeast, probably be called 3097. And there's the rock back. We'll bring up another series of images here from SDO. This will be yesterday and today. In 2 species of ionized iron and 1 of ionized helium. That's 304 angstroms plus 211 plus 171. And that, my friends, is where today's daily space weather video ends. But fear not, because we've got some meteorology stuff to cover, as there's some exciting stuff going on in the realm of meteorology as well. So before we get to that, thanks for tuning into the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. Perhaps follow us on Twitch if you haven't done so. Twitch.tv/SmashOmash is our Twitch channel. Thanks to our new followers over on Twitch. Make sure you follow us on Twitter if you haven't. Twitter.com/SmashOmash, where we even put up the definitions of new words, like the word curb, which now means to increase. Did you know that the word curb now means to increase? Yeah. We used to think that the word curb means to decrease or to, like, prevent, for example. And now it means to increase. So find out what we're talking about there over at twitter.com/SmashOmash. If you ain't got a Twitter, get an account. Thanks to our new followers, subscribers, whatever you want to call them, over on YouTube, youtube.com/SmashOmash. If you're watching on BitChute, you're missing out on a bunch of content. like our SmashOnMash.org Presents the Sun series, like our beer review. We just did one on Labor Day of the world's first Pilsner beer. If you want to hear what I think of it. Does it suck? Is it good? Where's it from? Seriously, though, thanks to our YouTube viewers. We appreciate your tuning in to the channel, despite the shortfalls of the software and the censorship and so on in the platform. If you're new to the channel, press like, press subscribe, press share, press the notification bell, leave a comment. Tell your friends and foes about the channel. If you want to support the channel via subscription services, consider becoming a member of the Smash Team. We do include additional content for the Gold and Silver Smash Team members. There's also a quote free and quote bronze level at the Smash Team, smashomash.com/Smash Team. We needed to replace Patreon with something superior. You can find all kinds of links there as well. Thanks to the Smash Team, especially the Gold and Silver level, there's also a Gold annual paid-up subscription level where you'll get complimentary merch and a full year subscription at a discount of about 4 months worth of Gold level subscription service. Once again, thanks to the Smash Team. We even send out email alerts during things like geomagnetic storms, tsunamis, etc. You can find links to the SureMed on there. If you want to improve your health, join the American Better Health Organization, otherwise known as SureMed. And get all kinds of discounts and all kinds of features like doctors by phone, counselors by phone, virtual veterinarians. Save a ton on dental services. Save a ton on things like glasses and eye exams and LASIK surgery. At our SureMed link, join SureMed. It's certainly worth the $20 a month. I'm a member. Ask me what I think, as I've been using the services myself over the past couple of months. You can find links to that on our homepage at smashomash.com. Right there's the SureMed link, and welcome to the Neo Renaissance. Congratulations on realizing the channel exists. In 2019, a crack YouTube unit was sent to social media prison for a crime we didn't commit. We promptly escaped a maximum security social media stockade to the internet underground where we survive as producers of fortune. If you have a problem like pathetic nonsense on YouTube, if no one else can help, and if you can find the content, maybe you can hire the Smash Team. You certainly can. Again, links on the homepage at smashomash.com. Help us out with clicks. Help us out with subscription services, etc. Help yourself out by becoming a member of SureMed. Today's featured product is on our Redbubble shop, and don't forget to enter the promo code NOTJUST. It's your final day to save 20% store-wide by entering the promo code NOTJUST. Because it's not just t-shirts. Today's featured product is being worn by me right now. By the way, these are our products in order of best selling. And I'm actually wearing today's featured product, which is Universum Liberate. So here you go. I would say to each of you, Universum Liberate. It's the slogan, or you could say the motto, of the Galactic Federation Special Forces. Are you sick of what's going on planet Earth like so many other people are? Well, support the Galactic Federation Special Forces with some Universum Liberate merch. The print quality is spectacular, and the message is of freedom and liberty, yes. Wouldn't you prefer to be free? Well, if you're over trying to create freedom in your town, county, state, nation, continent, hemisphere, planet, and solar system, help create freedom and liberty in the galaxy. Once you've brought freedom and liberty to your local spot, help bring freedom to the galaxy. The symbolism represents the Milky Way galaxy. The key represents signal security and integrity. The lightning bolt represents instantaneous galactic scale reach. Once again, welcome to the Neo Renaissance. And to each of you out there yearning for freedom, I would say to you, Universum Liberate. You want to freak out your friends and foes by convincing them that you're in the Illuminati, say Universum Liberate, because there's nothing like some Latin language to freak people out. So let's get into our meteorology segment here. We've got a bunch of hot water. We've got a bunch of hot air on YouTube about what causes things like things like hurricanes. So this one's about to crash into Bermuda, and this one is crashing right now into Baja California. So we've got hurricane warnings all around these areas. We've got some flood warnings for Southern California. San Diego, you're in the crosshairs. This hurricane up here is weakening because it's getting over much colder water here in the North Atlantic. That is the sea surface temperature, environment, and wind map for the relevant area. So let's show the portions that we normally show daily here as we move from the realm of space weather to earth weather. Here are the surface winds of the eastern world. Strong onshore wind there in southern Australia. Here are the jet streams of the eastern world. Backward jet stream here over the West Pacific and northern Indian Ocean. Here are the jet streams of the western world, the Americas. Cold air being driven all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico once again. Some Great Lakes air making it all the way to Louisiana and beyond. Here are the surface winds. Like sands through the hourglass of time, these are the surface winds of our lives. Here are the surface winds of the central world. And here are the jet streams. And let's blast through some more weather information here. We've brought up a shortwave radiation map of the western world here for you, since we've got some spectacular imagery to show. And since we do have some viewers from South America, there are the views of this side of the planet. That's shortwave radiation showing clouds and fog. And that is what's going on. So continuing on here, here's our weather.gov map. We've got some coastal flood warnings here all around southern New Jersey and Delaware. Red flag warnings over the north central part of the country. Excessive heat around California. And again, you're going to have some flooding there in western Arizona and southern California, as there is a hurricane warning. Also some flood watches there in Florida. If your county's lit, head to weather.gov and click your county. There are too many counties to cover in this short meteorology segment. So we're going to bring up some forecasts here. This is the pressure and precipitation forecast. We had to wait to do this until the video because the data was not available when we did show prep. So here is your pressure and precipitation forecast. And it looks like that hurricane there is going to make an abrupt turn to the east. Give it a minute. This hurricane is going to take an abrupt turn to the east here and kind of brush past Bermuda instead of hitting it directly. And this system is going to break down quickly here, so you can see the pressure suddenly rise there at the end of that 72-hour GFS forecast. That's your 72-hour pressure and precipitation forecast based on the GFS model. Now we're going to bring up the total accumulated precipitation forecast. Since there's going to be some heavy rains, let's see what happens. So expect some flooding there, showing like 5-6 inches of rain there near the California-Mexico border. About 4 inches of rain there stretching into California. Some heavy rains there also forecasted around the Florida coasts, the northern, large portions of Florida. They're expecting huge amounts of rain. And we're also going to show the pressure and wind forecast. Once again, it is the GFS model, and it is for 72 hours. So give that a minute to initialize. That's the GFS 72-hour pressure in millibars and 10-meter wind in knots. That is not fake news. All right, so here's some more imagery. Give that a minute as the sun rises over the cloud tops. Pretty well-defined system there. Again, it is expected to make a rather abrupt turn to the east, right as it approaches landfall there at Bermuda. So that's a good sign. That should reduce the damage a bit. Let's take a look at this area as well. See what's going on. And there you go. There's your satellite charging hazards. See some missing data showing up there. That is from high energy and low energy electrons affecting the satellite imagery. Continuing on here, here's our NASA GOES lightning mapper. Some incredible lightning there around Central America. Yowzers, look at that. That is some concentrated lightning happening, and let's take a look at a real-time lightning map. We don't want the video to be too long. And thanks for leaving comments. One audio. You're welcome, and thanks for tuning in. So here's our real-time lightning map from lightningmaps.org. Next time you hear thunder, check it out. Have we got any terrestrial strikes? We do indeed. Homosassa Springs, which is, by the way, a fantastic place to visit. If you're in Florida, make sure you check out Homosassa Springs. Spectacular. If you want to be hanging around right next to things like flamingos and whooping cranes and sandhill cranes, and be up close and personal with manatees and all kinds of other underwater activities, Homosassa Springs. It's fantastic. Highly recommended. There is certainly some serious thunder rolling in at the moment. Also some Grecian lightning looking like it's showing up there. Next to your National Weather Service radar here, this is radar.weather.gov, and you've got some heavy precipitation there showing up at Alaska. Shout out to Brett. We hope you're not wet and soggy. We'll focus on the lower 48. And have we a need to reinitialize our imagery? Give me a minute here. We've got the shortwave radiation and water vapor imagery for you. So here's your shortwave radiation map. And here's water vapor. A bunch of dry air there over the central U.S. Clear skies over most of Kansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, most of Texas, and most of Arkansas. Anyway, here's your recap. And that's where we'll end things today. Facts. It's where it's at. So thanks for tuning in to the Daily Space Weather. Congratulations on realizing the channel exists. And may that solar wind be at your back. Opinions expressed in this video are not necessarily the opinions of Smash News Network, least busted name in news.